of all that one does within it, which is a regular type of process to be engaged in, is the means by which Yira is elevated. Okay, and that means as follows: is that what we do is that in terms of Yira, we basically understand more clearly our environment, our reality, our world, the way things actually work. Okay, and that is in this particular case, the removal first and foremost of pachadim, of those things which scare us, that really are not real. In other words, they do not have their own essential being, but actually are ultimately rooted, of course, in judgment from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, and that is first and foremost an elevation of Yira to Das by means of actually looking at that which we are doing, that which we have done, that which we need to correct as a result of that which we've done. We need to do in order to make sure that we don't do it again. All that is the process of self-analysis, which yields a certain type of das, which ultimately, in the course of this particular lesson, means the extraction and the liberation of true Yira from that which is not real at all, and that removes it, takes it back to its place. By means of the attainment of that das, that we attain as a result of this process of self-analysis, that das enables us to be able to attain Torah. Okay, I'm going to explain this in 1 second. The Torah, the revealed Torah, the revealed, otherwise known as Sinai. Very often, in terms of Kabbalah, das is synonymous with Torah, particularly the revealed Torah. Now, when we talk about revealed Torah, we're not just talking about, let's say, a halacha versus Kabbalah. That's not really what we're talking about. We're talking not only about that, but we're also talking about depth. The depths of Torah certainly exist within halacha as well as is within the Talmud. The depths of Talmud and halacha knows no limit whatsoever. Those very, very great depths are also what we refer to as the Sisriya Torah, the Torah as well. But for our purposes, basic understanding of Torah in its enormous comprehensive breadth is what we would refer to as Torah Shebenigla, talking about the revealed, the open Torah, which is quite an accomplishment to set ourselves to undertake or to have as its goal within our lifetime, and that is the mastery of an expansive, comprehensive knowledge of Torah, of the revealed Torah. Now, what Rav Nachman is explaining to us is that das, is ultimately related to it. Of course, we need das in order to be able to learn, but it's much more of the fact that in his particular case, what he's referring to is that das is an accumulative type of accomplishment. In other words, we attain das not only by means of self-reflection about ourselves. We learn about ourselves. We understand ourselves. We understand what we do, why we have done, all of which are tremendous achievements in terms of gaining, many levels of us about ourselves. Okay, that is for sure. And of course, continuously required because, we need to be able to really reflect upon what it is that we do, what we do all the time. Okay, and why we do that again and again, once more, what we have done, the impact of our actions, and also to be able to work on the causes that effectively bring us to doing these things which might be wrong, but ultimately which also might be good. So we want to be able to develop this self-awareness as well as this expanded consciousness, which is what we would refer to as das. Now, ultimately, what Rav to us that the ha'alah, the elevation of Yira, to das as a result of self-analysis, mishpat, okay, enables an individual to reflexively be able to appreciate that which he is in terms of his being, also vis-a-vis the creator, and again a much greater and expanded understanding and awareness of God in all aspects of our lives, in all aspects of our existence. Now, the means of doing that is not only this self-analysis, but the self-analysis goes a certain distance. We have to be able to acquire greater powers of self-analysis as well as greater repositories das to be able to go ahead and reflect upon, and that really is where Torah comes into it. Torah comes to Torah Shabbat, the actually revealed Torah. This comprehensiveness of Torah, which becomes so incredibly important. See, for the way that Rav Nachman is using Torah over here, in other words, the attainment of Torah, of elevation of Das, to its roots, the elevation of Yira to Das, and then Das, vis-a-vis Torah, is Torah not only is an objective in and of itself, but it has an instrumental type of quality, which is extremely important for us. Okay, effectively being, Das Elokim, the knowledge of God, the knowledge from God, the Machshavas Elokim, all of these type of things that we have that effectively encompasses, the most incredibly wide range of possible human endeavor and human activity. The idea of this is, of course, is that there is an expansiveness of das, of being able to take one's mind and one's being into literally the four corners of human existence everywhere. And that's very, very important because that becomes expansive. That expansiveness of the knowledge, the expansiveness of the Torah's analytical framework, the expansiveness of the entire background, okay, by which the Torah goes ahead and deals with all aspects of human existence, then enters into our das. It becomes part of our das, which we then use and apply analysis of ourselves. Okay, and that effectively enables us to be able to look at ourselves, to look at our worlds and our entire environmental situation with a much broader, much more comprehensive view. But it also, what it does is that it continues to expand our awareness in every aspect of human activity. There is godliness. There are requirements that are dictated to us by the Creator. God's presence, God's impact upon us becomes dramatically expanded because of the fact of the reach of the Torah. It enables us to be able to then effectively reflect upon so many aspects of human existence from the aspect of a command via the Creator, via the statement of the will of the Creator. And as a result of that, our consciousness, awareness, and consciousness of the Creator is dramatically expanded. It's not just at a specific particular point in time that we think about God. There's not just a particular instant, circumstance in which we then go ahead and have to go ahead and call up something about the Creator. But then because of the immersive, comprehensive nature of Torah, it then becomes effectively an all-encompassing minute by minute, second by second involvement with the Creator. Okay, so that becomes something which is critically important in terms of expanded consciousness, expanded das, which then of course enables us to dramatically increase our awareness of Yiras Hashem, for sure, of God's being, God's presence, God's will, God's viewpoint as the way that we should at everything within our life. So this changes everything for us. Now, but there's something, and we talked about the instrumentality of it. Yes, we talked about the comprehensiveness. True. We talk about the analytical tools that are involved with Torah. Yes, but there's something else that Rav Nachman is driving at over here, and that is that the urgency of the command to know and to learn Torah, which is something which drives our being, is something which informs an entire worldview of discipline for us. We have to accomplish a lot. We have to master an enormous amount of material. We have to be able to push our minds further afield into so many different areas that we could not even begin to imagine. To do that, to accomplish that, to acquire the Torah requires great effort, great self-discipline, great self-sacrifice. Just to name a few of those qualities that are necessary in order to accomplish this. This is one of the main disciplinary requirements, or let's put it this way, or disciplinary processes that Rav Nachman has set for us in order for us to achieve this expanded consciousness, which is necessary for heightened Yiras Shamayim. Okay. Now, this is the lesson, but this is the review, but this is the ikar, the essential guts of what is being put forth. Now, the point of the matter is what Rav Nachman explains is this Torah Shebenigla, this revealed Torah, i.e., the aspect of Sinai, what you call Sinai, and Sinai, of course, conveys the aspect of anava, of humility, of lowering of oneself, and of humility. Not only is indicative of Sinai, it's indicative of this process that I just described, that a human being, that a Jew, is commanded, to go through in terms of the acquisition of Torah, that discipline, that self-sacrifice, that giving up of so much in order of one's personal luxuries or freedom that one might have towards other things, in order to put oneself under the yoke of Shemaim, Ol Malchut Shemaim, and the acquisition of Torah is a tremendous display of anava, which again, that in turn instills great anivut into the individual, which is an extremely powerful tool, again, in terms of the utility of that which is acquired as a result of the process of mastery of Torah, is extremely important for the next step as well, which is what he said, is that the Torah Shebenigla enables the individual to then be able to be zocha la tefillah, for tefillah. Very interesting. Torah Shebenigla then goes ahead, enables the individual to be zocha la tefillah. He calls that chesed lavrom. chesed lavram. The concept of tefillah is the notion of chesed of Avram, which of course is balanced on the other side. But the adnivut, by the contraction, the adnivut required necessary for the acquisition of Torah, which of course again is the dialectical opposites in terms of the Sephirotic edifice of Chesed on the one hand, i.e. Tefillah, and then on the other hand, the anivut of the Torah, requiring of the Torah, which is Gvura, which is that powerful disciplinary effort and strength that is needed in order to be able to really commit oneself to this understanding. Now, of course, they meet Tiferet, i.e. known Shput, as well, which is the judicious balancing of everything, which of course is necessary for the analytical process. That's the reason why justice is always portrayed as being, the blind lady with the, right? I put the blind around her, I should say, not the blind one, with the idea of balancing, which is Tiferet, which of course is mishpat as well, because ultimately speaking, is that all of these things are necessary in terms of being able to analyze, to self-analyze, to be able to assess one's true place, within the world, within one's relationship to a Kadosh Baruch Hu as well. That this idea of the tefillah. Now, for Rav Nachman, though, this we've talked about, this idea of tefillah. Tefillah then becomes something which is extremely important, extremely powerful. It is again one of these processes that man embarks on, the Jew embarks on, okay, in order to be able to take himself again to a further and further, level of achievement of da'as, ultimately speaking. And in order to be able to do that, one has to effectively practice. One has to be able to accomplish, know how to pray, to be able to achieve prayer, because prayer, okay, on its simplistic level, is not just an issue of asking for things from a Kadosh Baruch Hu. Always has within it, of course, this great meditative aspect to it, different than his bodedut, that is for sure, but it certainly has that. We have to be able to in that period of time, to be able to push out everything. We have to have great discipline and great skill and great strength and gvura in being able to completely concentrate our mind, our emotions, our entire psyche on the process of prayer, which requires enormous discipline, self-discipline. Of course, the Torah, again, the acquisition of Torah, of Talmud Torah, that entire process is a tremendous step continuously in terms of being able to achieve tefillah, because all discipline which is necessary for the Torah is necessary in the act of prayer as well. And ultimately, of course, this anivut, the anivut, which is essential in terms of acquisition of Torah, becomes absolutely essential in terms of prayer. The individual has to be able to see himself in front of the Ribono Shel Olam, has to see himself in nothing else in this world, vis-a-vis HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to be able to push everything else out, to be able to push all of his own petty or minute wants and desires and all the small things that exist in life, even some of the things which are greater, in terms vis-a-vis the Creator. Again, ultimately speaking, tefillah is an act of hakrav. It's the place of the kabronot. Effectively, it's a sacrifice, and in its way, via the Mesira Nefesh, the self-sacrifice of the individual to a Kodesh Baruch Hu. We effectively are completely in a process of self-nullification to merge, as it were, back into the Creator. That requires, tremendous discipline, efforts, and understanding, which of course Rav Nachman does bring up during the course of this lesson. And if one is able to be zoche latfila, one then has the possibility of actually tasting the tam of the Or HaGanuz, which is the Sisrei Torah, the secrets of the Torah, all the way back from the Yemei Bereshis, back from the very, very beginning. That's basically the summary of what we're talking about, over here. Really simple in terms of its layout, but in terms of again, this cosmic analogy that Rav Nachman draws over here between his powers of analysis, his emotions, and all of those things, with the Sfirot, with Chesed and Gvura, and Mishpat, and Das, and Bina, and all of these things there, again, shows that, that the man is a creature, the epicenter of creation, the purpose of creation, all of that mirrors in terms of the way that he operates, the actual workings of the universe. The way man operates is all of the cosmos operates too. So Rav Nachman continuously in his teachings, illustrates what he wants about ourselves with an illustration as to how these processes are mirrored on a cosmic level as well, within the Sfirot and all of that, and that's very, very much what we have over here. But again, what Rav Nachman is drawing out for us, again, elevation of year. The elevation of year is everything. Because Yira, awareness of a Kadosh Baruch Hu, and the proper positioning ourselves in every aspect of our being, intellectual, psychological, intuitive, emotional, all of that is necessary in terms of putting us into a mode of a relationship with the Ribbon Shalom. That's what's at stake over here in terms of the Yira, and effectively the elevation of Yira, and is dependent upon Das. It's dependent upon Das, which is a case and means of the self-analytical process. And then the expansion of Das, in the deepening of it, of Das, again, then connects into the learning of Torah and all of the necessary personal requirements and issues involved with that, which then enable a person to effectively acquire Torah, which again is very Das expansive, all right, which then enables the individual a broader playing field within which consciousness and awareness can relate to the Creator on a bigger plane, on a larger plane, on an expanded plane. That relationship becomes hopefully deeper, okay, and more widespread. Okay, then ultimately to tefillah disciplines to take the anivut, which is inherent in the acquisition of Torah, and to be applying those same skills and that same discipline in terms of the acquisition of tefillah, okay, even to the point of utter self-sacrifice, which is the essence of prayer. Mesiras Nefesh. Mesiras Nefesh is self-sacrifice. And that means not just a question of getting rid of your own petty desires and smaller whatever, but basically means nullification of self. giving oneself back to the Creator, which is the ultimate truth. Once we come, we're totally dependent, totally vulnerable, completely at the mercy of the Creator in every aspect, every second of our existence. That is tefillah b'msirus nefesh, which ultimately enables the individual through that removal of barriers, that crashing through of barriers that comes as a result of being able to achieve that destruction of self and the lowering of self is expansive in terms of the borders and boundaries of the human being, that enables him in some form, hopefully, to be able to connect the infinite aspect of the Torah Shabbanistar, the hidden Torah. Is all of that pretty clear to you? We're expanding what we're saying, but I want to make sure that of course is clear before we go, on to this story again, this illustrative story of Rab Chana bar Rabba bar Rachana. Okay, yeah, everybody. Can I have everybody's assent? I can't move on without that. Beryl says yes. Beryl says fine. Okay, good. That's good. Well, thanks for the review. That's good. You helped me review. I appreciate that. Thank you for listening. Which is good. Okay, so this Rabbah bar Rachana, which is on page 352. Page 52. I'm going through this pretty quickly because I want to make sure that we have all of this. So you know the story. The famous story with the akruk, the frog. Okay, the frog was as big as the town of Agronia, which is 60 houses. A serpent, a nachash, comes, swallows the frog. Then comes a pushkanzo, an orev, a rave, which swallows the snake. Then it goes ahead and it goes up and sits on the branch of a tree. At the end, it says, look how strong that tree must have been. Omer of Papa bar Shmuel at the end, says, if I wouldn't have been there, I would not have this. Okay, and then be able to see all this. Okay, good. So let's go very, very quick. So the akrukta, down here at the bottom, or over here, the akrukta. So the Rashbam says that's tzvardeya. Tzvardeya, of course, as we know, is this word that's more kevet. That's effectively a joint made up of tzipor and deya, bird and deya. And also we understand something is that das itself is a union, is a conjunction, because das itself is not its own sphera per se, but what it is effectively a union of chachma and bina. It's a union of chachma and bina. Not only that, what it does is it serves, mechanically speaking, as a means of transference of that union of chachma and bina, okay, throughout the sephirotic body, over to das, over to gvura and din, and so on and so forth. So that's what it is. So this tzipor deya, which is this word, this collective word, made up word deya, again, which of course is reflective of das, which is a union in and of itself of chachma and bina. Tzipor deya. The tzipor hu bechinas yira. Tzipor is an aspect of yira because it is an aspect of eretz. This notion of malan, of the elevation of it from the land, or upward, as it were, to ultimately sitting on a branch, which is that it ends at the very end, with the orev sitting there at the very, very end. Okay, very good. Vadamyo, let's go further. Next part over here. So he says that the following is the case is that it was as large as the town of Hagronia, which Krobegorum, which is Ebachin's Torah Shabbanigla. It's the aspect of Torah Shabbanigla, the revealed Torah. As Chazal has said, Lemotziyen Bapeh, those who go ahead and bring those words out by their mouth. Ki al yedei aliyat hayira lebchinas das zochen laTorah Shabbanigla. As we said, by means of the elevation of yira to the aspect of das, one has the capability of meriting the revealed Torah, again, which then becomes reflectively expansive. As one's das increases, one goes ahead and also learns more Torah. As one learns more Torah, one's das further expands, so on and so forth. And he says now the following. How big was the town of Agronia? It's the aspect of Tefillah. 60 houses is the aspect of Tefillah, because effectively what this is ultimately indicative of course, is a reference. It's a reference to Avraham Avinu. In other words, in terms of the 60 houses of majesty, which come out from Avraham Avinu again, and Avraham Avinu is the aspect of Chesed, and Avraham Avinu is the source of Kahuna. Okay, and Kahuna ultimately is the notion of love and Chesed and all of that, and prayer, Beit HaMikdash, which is the house of prayer, and so on and so forth. So that's the notion of 60. The 60 houses is that illusion. Now, importantly over here is that he's explaining this again, this interesting idea, is that when we, in other words, this notion of tefillah that is veiled over here by means of the acquisition, the Torah Shabbanitla, one then has the ability of being able to merit tefillah. He says, "Kisha'onu korim laKodesh Baruch Hu b'ta'arim shel basar v'dam." Right over here is that when we call to a Kodesh Baruch Hu by means of the terminology and the descriptions of man, humanistic descriptions that apply to the Creator, is he effectively appears to us. He makes himself available to us in the humanistic terminology that we are permitted to use. Chesed Hashem Yisborach, that is ultimately chesed from a Kadosh Baruch Hu, because the truth of the matter is we should not be allowed at all to consider the Creator, to consider the Ein Sof, okay, at all, is any kind of humanistic terminology. The Ein Sof is completely and absolutely other. There is no comparison between a Kadosh Baruch Hu and anything within his creation. He is ultimately and absolutely other, something other. Hashem Echad, it's one, complete and absolute unity. So the fact of the matter is, use humanistic terminology to consider and talk about and speak to the Creator in order that our minds should be able to relate to that which we can't relate to an Ein Sof, an infinite being that has absolutely and utterly no correlation whatsoever to finite, limited basar v'dam, flesh and blood. This is, in fact, a great chesed of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. Ki im lo hoye b'chasdei Hashem Yisborach, lo hoye kedai likro lechanot Hashem Yisborach b'dam shvachim b'tevos osios. He says, if it were not for that chesed, we would never be able to even bridge the gap that exists between man and God. There's no bridge of it anyway. But for us to be able to even put ourselves into a position where we would feel able to approach and to pray to the Creator, this is something which is a great chesed, very important point to be able to consider. Because the truth of the matter is, we shouldn't be allowed to do it because it's truly a violation. It could be a violation of the Yichud Hashem, the oneness of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. We say the Shema Yisrael, Shem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. God is one, which basically means an absolute and utter oneness. We cannot relate to that. There's no correlation at all within the created world to that. A Kadosh Baruch Hu is not just something which is bigger and stronger or more or whatever. It has nothing to do with it. It's completely and absolutely other. There is no frame of reference at all in the created world for the Creator. So how is it that we can even approach this being? And the answer is by means of the chesed that Kadosh Baruch Hu allows us to use imagery, humanistic imagery, which again is inaccurate, but from the perspective of man, necessary in order to be able to even begin to approach a Kadosh Baruch Hu in this mode of prayer. Otherwise, it's not great chesed. So the concept of tefillah is a great chesed on behalf of the Creator, that He extends to us the ability to approach Him in a manner that, in truth, He is absolutely and utterly unapproachable. That is tremendous chesed. That's the aspect of that. That corresponds to the notion of Abram in terms of the chesed, of the Kohen, and that sort. Okay? That's the 60 button that exists over here right now. And he says that Lashon also. Now, also, again, which is true, is that the 60 also refers to Torah. 60, for sure. There's 60 tractates, 60 Masechtas in the Tan, the Mishnah, okay, which basically is an allusion to Torah as well. In order to be able to get to the Torah, we have to be able to go to access and master the comprehensiveness of the Shittei Batim, of the 60 houses, the 60 Masechtas, which in fact is Torah as well. Another allusion over here. So the connection again between Torah Shebenigla and Tefillah is being drawn over here in this lesson by Rav Nachman. Now, V'zeh samchuni b'ashishos. Now that which is, he says, what he's explaining to is that this is what is referred to in Shir Hashirim of samchuni b'ashishos. In other words, beat my head, as it were, ashishos, which are these jugs of wine. Kemoshim siman ashishos keneged gadol. He says ashishos also is another word. It's not just a question of basically being jugs of wine, but also these types of lights, of reflectors that enable one to be able to look into or to have access to the Or Gadol. Kedei listakel b'Or HaGadol al yidei ashishos kain gozar chasto l'smoch otan. I think I'm on the next page. Excuse me for that. Right, be right there. Excuse me. Right over here. It's the aspect of samchuni, support me, which is the aspect of the letter, which in fact is the ta'arim shvachim, which is the descriptions that we are allowed to use, the imagery, the humanistic and praises and words, which we are allowed to use, which is like the reflectors, effectively, samchuni b'ashishas, that enables us to access and look at the great light, almost like the great solar eclipse. He says that's the letter Samach, Samchuni. Samach means 60, of course. That's Bechinat Shishim, Malachos, the Malachos which effectively come out, houses of majesty from Avram Avinu, Shehu Bechinat Samach Bate, the 60 houses. Now, next. Then comes the Nachash. The Nachash comes around. Shemeisit et Adam, as it always does. It seduces man. She is palil to elas atzma, that he should pray for his own personal benefit. In other words, it says, give us life, livelihood, oshar to us, or other types of purposes. It's natural. Of course, what are we praying for? We're so dependent. We're utterly vulnerable on a Kadosh Baruch Hu for everything. We need everything. Of course, we're going to do that. But the problem with that is that that's not the tefillah b'mesiras nefesh. That's not the tefillah in which we sacrifice everything to a Kadosh Baruch Hu. The prayer which is with utter mesiras nefesh, okay, has no ulterior motive, has no personal desires or other than absolute personal sacrifice. Mesiras nefesh l'kadosh baruch hu. In other words, the offering of self, completely, the lowering of self, the standing in front of a kadosh baruch hu, the offering of oneself, pure and simple. That is it in terms of its absolute being, the giving of praises to a kadosh baruch hu, the recognition of the Kadosh Baruch Hu, Okay, the complete limitation of self and the lowering of self. That is the anivut, of course, in the acquisition of Talmud Torah, then applied in terms of the process of prayer, perfected prayer, ultimately to accomplish the complete and utter lowering of self. That lowering of self then becomes, in and of itself, a dramatically expansive instrument in which the individual then pushes the finite borders of self into realms of the infinite, where he's able to access this Torah, the secrets of the Torah. Then Vasi Pushkansu Lea, the Pushkan, the Orev, the raven then comes. It's explained by the Rashbam, okay, and it says, what is the raven? Misha mashchir panav ka'orev, umisha nasa achzari al banav ka'orev. As the Gemara in Eruvin explains to that, that is like the one who darkens his face like a raven. Okay, one who darkens his face as a raven, and one who makes himself cruel to his children as the raven. In other words, the darkening of it. In other words, basically the complete and utter lack of self-interest is what this is all about. Makes himself cruel to his children. Sure, he doesn't want to make himself cruel to his children, but the point of the matter is asking for the benefit from a Kishmark. Of course it's needed. Of course we're utterly dependent. Of course, who else do we turn to except the Kadosh Baruch Hu? But the point of the matter, the way Rav Nachman is explaining, is that in paradigmatic prayer, okay, is absent of ulterior motive other than the prayer itself. Just like in the mitzvah, in the performance of a mitzvah, the schar, the reward of the mitzvah, is only the mitzvah itself. Schar mitzvah mitzvah, as it says in Pirkei Avos. No ulterior motive other than the doing of Hashem's will, the mitzvah itself. Similarly, over here, with a tefillah, the lowering of self, constant lowering of self to the point where it's tefillah b'msiras nefesh, in complete and utter self-sacrifice with no ulterior motive, is pure prayer. The interesting thing is that Rav Nachman says, as opposed to effectively being debilitating or limiting or anything of the sort, dramatically self-expansive. Okay, in its own way, it's dramatically self-expansive. Okay, is that the tefillah doesn't have any purpose, to it. There's no ulterior motive. But in that complete self-destruction, that complete lowering of self, the complete self-negation, everything's there, is dramatic power that's unleashed within the human being, because he then pushes himself way beyond the finite limitations of the human being. Says that's the one who is mispalabli shum kavanas beinu choshev lechlu misatzmo. The individual who is able to pray without any intent, any other personal purpose, doesn't consider anything for himself, v'nizbat kol atzmuso v'gashmiyuso, and nullifies all of his self, as well as his materiality, and lowers and eliminates everything. V'nizbatel ki ilu einu ba'olam. He goes ahead and negates himself as if he were not in this world. Kamosha Kasuv, as it is written, Ki olecha haragnu kol hayom, for your sake, we are killed each day. In other words, for your sake, we destroy ourselves. We self-negate, as Rav Nachman says. That's what that is. Bechinat shechorot ka'orev. In other words, the darkening, the blackening of self, like the orev. So ends up happening over here is that the orev comes and swallows the snake. The snake, who is effectively the one who encourages self-interest. the tefillah with self-interest for oneself, for one's purpose. All of that is destroyed by the orev who swallows that. The mesiras nefesh overwhelms self-interest. Slake visiv bi'ilona. What ends up happening then is that after he swallows the nachash, the orev goes ahead and goes up and sits on the tree. What does that mean, the tree? He's talking about the tree, Eitz Chaim. He's talking about the tree. Ultimately, Torah is referred to, very, very often, as it said, actually in the note down below over here, the great tree right over here, I believe. And take a look at that note. Very, very good notes over here. As the editors pointed out, the great tree, what we're talking about over here, is that we haven't actually gotten to this. Let me go. Yoshes Choshech Sisro. That what he does is that he's made his darkness. Okay, he's made his darkness his hidden place. Shesisrei Torah, the secrets of the Torah, Odem Zochulahem al Yidei Choshech, by means of darkness. Hainum Siris Nefesh, which means to say the self-sacrifice. Shemashke Bonav Ka'orev. He darkens his face like the Orev, like the raven. Kihaim Bechinas Choshech Hashem Omek Amusaf. And he says that this notion, the Sisrei Torah, okay, are referred to in the aspect of darkness, Al Shem Omek Hamusag, by virtue of the depth of the concept that's involved with. There's a bechina slake visiv beilon, a notion that the orev goes up and then sits on the tree. Shesham, there on that tree, midor haneshamas. That is the realm of the neshamas. Kamoshikasu kol nishmasan meilona ravrva nafkin. As it says in the Zohar, all of the souls emanate from the great tree. Now, I jumped a little bit ahead of myself, but the point of the matter is there's so many different references and issues that come about right here at this very, very last point over here. The notion of the great tree. The notion of the great tree is referred to as the Eitz Chaim, as it says, the Eitz Chaim in the note. The Eitz Chaim, the tree of life, the tree of life. Of course, is oftentimes referred to as Bina, as the sphere of Bina. And we know over here that Ilah, the Das has its shoresh in Bina. Okay, so the Mala, the Aliyah, the elevation of Yira to Das, to its root in Das, in Bina, which is again its ultimate source, effectively, is where the Orev comes to rest. The Orev, again, which is the one that has as the darkness of the Mesiras Nefesh, of the absolute discipline of the ones, the learner of Torah, who knows no day, no night, who sits constantly in learning and self-sacrifice, that he gives the discipline for the acquisition of Torah, of the Amola B'Torah, to the work and the effort that's placed into it, which is given the metaphor of the absence of light, of the darkness that is necessary for Torah Sheb'Negla, as well as ultimately then the acquisition of Tefillah becomes the Orev who then goes and sits on the limb of the great tree, which is Bina, Eitz Chaim, which is of the supernal Torah, which is rooted in Bina, the supernal Torah, the Torah Keduma of the supernal Torah that's what we're talking about, is the Sisrei Torah, the actual secrets of the Torah, and that is also the root of all of the neshamas. All the neshamas are rooted in Bina. If you want to take a look at that, take a look at Ramban. Ramban on the commentary, in his commentary in Chumash, in the pasuk V'yipach ba'apav nishmas chaim, he blows into his nostrils, into the nostrils of man, the soul of life, which is the neshama. Take a look at Ramban over this again, chapter 2, verse 7 and 8. In Bereshis, over there, Ramban tells us over this that that's Bina. that what it is that the soul is rooted in Bina and comes in this world by a Tiferes, and so forth. It's over here. You have all of these references that come about over here. Bina's Torah Shebenistar is rooted in there. The primordial Torah, the secrets of the Torah. The souls are rooted in Bina, which is the great tree, the Eitz Chaim. All of that is there. And once we're able to go ahead and merit that, he says that this, sitting on the limb of the great tree over there, again, being able to make the elevation, Hashem, all the way to Sisrei Torah, accessing the Or HaGanuz, tasting the tam of the Or HaGanuz, the Sisrei Torah, is the aspect of Olam Haba. Sheshama Richas Yomim. There is no time. There's the eternity of time. Is there the absence of time? Whatever you want to say. Kosuv, as it says in Yeshayahu, in Isaiah, Kimei Eitz, Yemei Ami, as the days of a tree. Here the reference is to the great tree, to the Eitz Chaim, Bina, Yemei Ami, or the days shall be the days of my people. Or so ultimately, that's what we have to look forward to. The Zezocha al yidei tefillah. One's able to merit that now in this world by means of tefillah. Ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu mitavel l'tfilason shel Yisrael. Because Kadosh Baruch Hu desires the tefillah of Israel. Of Israel. Now at the very, very bottom, let's just skip over and just go to the very bottom of the next page over there. Maybe I'm going backwards, excuse me. Over here. Look how strong, how great and powerful, strong the branch of that tree is. Hainu. Look how great the strength of the Sisrei Torah, the mysteries of the Torah. It's not able to be clothed in anything and anything physical, and they're not able to put a lavush on it to be able to present it in any type of a physical form. B'shum guf, no type of physicality. Only in the one, by the one who darkens his like the raven, makes himself like the raven vis-a-vis his own children. In other words, the point of the matter is at the very end, the acquisition or the taste of the Sisrei Torah, the Or HaGadnus, is only acquired, is only accessible to the one who completely self-nullifies. That's the one. No gvul. There is no levush over there. There's no accessibility to this because it's beyond. It's infinite. It's in the realm of the infinite. And one tastes the tam of that by the destruction of borders and boundaries, which basically is the nullification of self, which ultimately is the upper limits of Torah, the achievement of tefillah by means of the acquisition of Torah and the process that's involved. Okay, I think we're going to stop right here. This basically is the major gist and the point of this particular lesson concerning the elevation of Yira to its roots. So we will stop right here. We've completed this particular lesson for the most part. We continuously come back to lessons of this sort as they are so powerful and so important to us. And hopefully, Yirtzeh Hashem, I wish and I hope that we will all merit to be able to access for ourselves some of the points that Rav Nachman has taught us in this particular lesson, to be able to elevate Yira to its root, to be able to develop this broad, comprehensive understanding and knowledge of Torah, to be able to merit tefillah, which then effectively can enable us to continue to rise higher and higher, ultimately achieving greater levels of Yiras Hashem. Thank you very, very much, everybody. And I look forward, in Yitzhak Hashem, to being able to learn together with you all again in the coming Zmani. In the meantime, I wish you all very, very grateful for the forum. And if we don't speak with each other or learn together before Pesach, a very, very, very Chag Kosher V'Sameach to everyone there. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much, Beryl. Thank you. I appreciate that. Listen, listen, you do more for me than I do for you. You enable me to be able to think about these things, to be able to make sure that I understand a little bit of it, to be able to convey that to you. For that, I'm very, very, very thankful, to all of you. Anyway, again, be well.